So I announced something pretty big on Friday, and I wanted to take you all on a little countryside walk. I go on this walk pretty much every morning. It feels like a huge turning point for me personally and professionally, and I just wanted to kind of fill you all in on why I've come to the decision of becoming a fully independent artist and starting my own record label, Apple Tree Records. Feels very strange talking to a phone in the middle of a field, but here we go. It's kind of hard to put into words the past 10 years of being in the music industry. I've had some very high highs and very low lows, as most people in the music industry have probably experienced. When I was 15, I set up a YouTube channel, and I didn't really think it would turn into a career. I thought, coming from a small village in the middle of Scotland, I just wouldn't be discovered or heard unless I went on the X Factor, because social media wasn't really what it was, and I didn't really have the money to just move to London and knock on the record label's doors. So I started a YouTube channel purely to see if strangers on the internet thought I could sing, because I wasn't sure, and looking back, probably couldn't at the time. I started to develop a fan base from there. At 17, I released my first proper EP, the Apple Tree EP, and that EP charted on iTunes, which was like the holy grail back then. I had some great support from other artists taking me on tour, etc. From that I got signed to a major label. At this point I kind of realised the power of social media. I don't think a lot of us were aware that it could actually turn something into a career, and it was at that point that I was like, holy shit, I'm a signed artist. And to be honest, like, I thought I'd made it just getting signed. Then went on to make my first album and a string of EPs, and I had some great times on that label. But after my first album I got told I was making another one. I went away and made one for 2 years. I didn't realise I was essentially shelved, which is where they don't drop you but they don't put anything out. It was a harsh realisation when I found out I was being dropped after kind of putting everything into making an album and thinking, you know, everyone was on board. I hold no bad vibes against anyone there, because I think that needed to happen for the next part, opening a gate. The whole experience on the major label, I feel like it was just way too early on in my career, and I feel like I probably got signed for the wrong reasons. I don't think, in all honesty, I got signed for my talent at the time. It really knocked my confidence going forward. I was very depressed after I got dropped. I felt like the industry viewed me as damaged goods. No one wanted to kind of be associated with me or work with me as an artist. So I got into a room as a songwriter, and I thought, I'll just be a songwriter. I've had my time in the sun. So I wrote songs for other people for a while, and I started to get cuts as a writer. That built my confidence back up to think, maybe I'm alright. And in the evenings I started working on the album I'd always dreamed of making, which was The Sun Will Come Up, The Seasons Will Change. I couldn't afford producers, so I learned to produce myself in my bedroom. Some of it was very sketchy, and luckily I ended up being able to get producers to work with me to finish it. Once I'd written that album, me and my manager Vicky shopped it around the labels, and nobody wanted it. And then this lovely indie label heard it, and we're like, we really believe in this, we want to take this on board. And yeah, I just really wanted to put the music out and had no expectations. The Sun Will Come Up, The Seasons Will Change album then went on to have 1 billion streams, and I got to tour the world for 3 years pretty much, meet all of you. Amazing experiences, like just life-changing experiences with that album. So grateful for everything that came with that. After that I wrote another album, Elscar, which was probably the toughest album I've ever had to make. I definitely felt a lot of pressure to follow up the success of The Sun Will Come Up. It was really tricky making the album during a time where I had a lot of stuff going on personally, and I also was trying to make an album in a pandemic. And then that leads me to last year. My time came to an end with the indie label, and I was fully independent, kind of not really knowing if I wanted to continue with the artist thing, if we're being completely honest. Like, I achieved everything I could have dreamed of achieving with that album. And at the end of the 3 years of touring, I felt completely physically, emotionally, mentally burnt out. My relationships had suffered with a lot of people because I just hadn't been around, and when I had been around I was just exhausted. I also just felt guilty because I'd had all these incredible experiences and opportunities, and I feel like as an artist you never know how long something's going to last, and when you do get these opportunities and success comes your way, like, I wanted to say yes to everything, but it was definitely to the extent of my own well-being, which is something I definitely want to try and navigate a little bit better if I get presented with those kind of opportunities again. But knowing me, I'll probably just say yes to everything again. So that leads me to the modern day of 2024. I kind of just wanted to be a songwriter again, because I feel like I've really struggled with how the music industry has changed since 2020. Just so much focus on viral videos, statistics, and I think so much of our worth as artists is put on how many views we get. I know it is really important because that is where a lot of people consume music these days, but I feel like I was just deteriorating as a musician and a writer because I was spending so much time just making videos for the internet and thinking of like, how can I get this music out there? So I just wanted to actually go back and use the skills that I've been working so hard my whole life on, you know, trying to get better at. Last year I just wrote for other artists for a year, and it was so refreshing. It was so nice to be creative every day and go home knowing like I've written a song that I love. Not every day, but most days. But then I've written this album that I'm really, really excited about, and I'm so proud of, and I honestly think it's maybe my favourite thing I've made so far. It's a folk album, and the reason it's a folk album is because that's what I started out as when I was 14, 15. I loved acoustic, folky music, and during this time of last year, trying to reconnect with why I wanted to be an artist in the first place and trying to find my love for music again, I went and listened to a lot of the stuff from like 2008, 2009, and I just fell in love with it all over again. I felt so inspired to make this type of music. It just feels really natural to who I am, and I think I've always struggled in the pop lane because I love writing pop music, I love singing it, but I'm quite introverted and awkward as a person, and I don't know, I just look at the pop stars of today and they're just so cool and like charismatic, confident, and they can dance. I've got 2 left feet, like you don't want to see it. My manager went round speaking to other labels. Just nothing really made sense. In this day and age, so much of the work falls on the artist because so much of it is social media led. Just thought to myself, what can a label really bring to the table in 2024 for us? I feel like I'm quite DIY anyway. I enjoy doing all that kind of stuff. My manager is great at kind of what a label would do. We thought, why not start our own label, have complete control over everything, hire who we want, put the music out that we want, not have the pressure of a big corporation demanding like a radio hit or too many people involved that it just kind of waters down the music. It feels really exciting, terrifying. I have no idea how this is going to go, but at the end of the day, whether it goes good or bad, I know like I stand behind every decision. We've waded through the trenches of the music industry together. I feel like with this album I really want to establish who I am as an artist. I feel like for so much of my, especially my early career, my narrative as an artist has been led by other people, and I've been called like the female version of a male artist or the Scottish version of this US artist. I don't want to be a version of someone else. I want to be like the best version of myself, and I think with this album I have achieved that musically. Thank you so much for all the love on Pages and on The Run. They're our first ever release and we're already blown away by the support from you all, and yeah, here we go.